What is up, everybody? Had some time to go live today, so I thought, why not rant about some of my favorite people to rant about? And that's the producers of Big Brother. The cast from Big Brother 27 has gone a little quiet, at least the people that matter to me. So I don't have as much to talk about with them, at least not today. We're going to talk about Vince, though. I have a theory about Vince I want to get out. But yesterday, Grodner opened her stupid mouth talking about the twist. It was Grodner, Meehan, the producers of Big Brother, the two main producers, trying to defend their White Locust twist that got Rachel out of the game, that had us all up in an uproar because, frankly, it wasn't Big Brother. So anytime a thought from Grodner's stupid brain makes its way out of Grodner's stupid mouth, I'm going to have to sit here and talk about it. I've done this for many seasons now, and time to do it again. So yeah, we're gonna start talking about the cockroaches that are Grodner and Meehan that we will probably never get rid of over at CBS for whatever reason. They decided to do an article yesterday with Entertainment Weekly defending their awful twist. And I'm going to pull it up so I can talk about it. Shout out Clown City in the comments. Shout out Chocolate Capricorn. Clown City says Grodner is a clown. Facts. All right. So they went on this defense a month after the twist. So to me, that alone, pretty telling. It's to try and save face with what was universally hated because we all, or at least most of us that weren't Rachel haters, thought it was awful. But what it also proves is that a lot of these longtime producers on reality television, on television in general, will go out of their way to try and save their jobs despite clearly being bad at them. I don't know if Grodner and Meehan really deserved the time with Entertainment Weekly to defend their terrible twists because they do this every single year with terrible twists. But frankly, some of their defense to me was so delusional that I see why we had such a delusional cast this past season because I feel like they wanted to see themselves in the cast. So their first line of defense was that this specific twist with the wheel was popular on reindeer games. Well, first of all, barely half of the regular audience watched that show, and that's being generous if we go over the demos for that show. But also, that wasn't real Big Brother, and that was a very, very short season. It was filmed in a week. So doing this twist to players that have been playing for 2 months when the twist happened is nowhere near the same thing as reindeer games. But reindeer games seem to be like their number one defense of this twist. So in the article, Grodner admits that the fan reaction was really bad. Grodner does this while, in my opinion, being cringe and using the word peak. I think this was her way of, I guess, trying to show she fits in with Gen Z slang and isn't totally out of touch and washed up. But there were a lot of stupid statements by the producers in this article. One of the main ones was trying to pretend this twist did have a social element to it because they did. They had 10 whole minutes to talk. So there was a social element to this. Yes, 2 months of gameplay coming down to 10 whole minutes. Grodner said, this is a quote from Grodner, there absolutely was a social element to this. In reindeer games as well. Remember, not everyone was going to go into that wheel. So your relationships and where you stood in the hierarchy of things and your threat level and the way that you worked in those 10 minutes and jockeyed for position were key. This is coming from Grodner herself. So the defense is once again using reindeer games as a defense where players on that season expected a fast game and a game that wasn't exactly Big Brother. There wasn't the whole HOH noms veto, just it was not the same format as Big Brother. On season 27, it was a group playing for 2 months up to this point. expecting at least HOH Nom's veto, but also this entire season expecting the blockbuster to save yourself too. So Grodner talking about the hierarchy, it does not work to pretend that 10 minutes in this twist is as fair of a social game of having a week to play in a normal week. A week that if you are on the block to save yourself, you got the veto. In this past season, all season long, you had the blockbuster to not only save yourself, but also socially, you could save yourself all week too with your pitching, with your trying to stay in the game. So I think that was an awful comparison. Although comparing the 1 week reindeer games to the 3 months Big Brother already is a terrible defense. And frankly, if they wanted to bring up a defense, which they did not in this article, a slightly better defense would have been like the double eviction, because at least that is something that is also fast to compare to this twist. But even then, it's not the same because you have the extra way to save yourself with the veto competition. I'm going to get back to their quotes, but I'm going to read the chat. Sangfreud Manor says, yeah, the fan reaction was also why they said the twist didn't make sense. They had a plan, but changed it when we freaked out. It's all a mess. I hope they don't do it again. Christine says, don't they know most casuals won't be reading this article? So why double down to the audience that sees the BS? Great point, actually, because the people reading the article are going to be the most hardcore fans like us, the people that watch the feeds like us. So it really does seem to be an odd thing to do. So I guess they are maybe trying to save face with us, but some of these quotes in the article, that does not seem to be the case at all. What's up, Tatsuya? Well, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name, but I'm glad you're a huge fan of the channel. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate it. So let's go to one of these quotes from Meehan, who is equally as inept as Grodner, and tried to agree and kind of double down with Grodner. He said, it was absolutely built to be social and strategic as well as competitive. He goes on to defend it, once again, comparing it to reindeer games, a totally different show, a totally shorter show. He said, people loved it on reindeer games, right? Asking a question. Did they? I don't know. Only half the audience watched. He then said, it was an amazing moment. And the reason why we were like, well, it can never really live in Big Brother is because what made it so great was the stakes. If it was the hamster wheel and it was just the nominees, it would just be another version of Big Brother. And I know people were clamoring for those higher stakes, and a lot of people really did enjoy it. I don't know if he's talking about us enjoying this episode, because I mean, if you go look at the ratings after this, despite the finale had great ratings. But if you look at all the episodes between that episode of Rachel's elimination and the finale, it was some of the season lows in the ratings that season. So once again, just spouting nonsense here from Meehan. So next in the article, these two grizzly buffoons are trying to save their jobs, in my opinion. Or I don't really know what they're talking about at this point on. It's a lot of bullshit, I guess, because there's not a lot of logic to what they're saying. Meehan said the first part of the twist with Ava was like winning an HOH, which, sure, whatever. Let's go with that. He then said, when it was originally designed, we looked at the layers of Big Brother from a social and strategic level. And then he said, and if you look at a week of old school pre-blockbuster Big Brother, you had an HOH competition that you could save yourself, and you had a veto competition that you could save yourself. And then you had the vote at the end where you could also save yourself, which is what I've been saying since the twist happened, that's how Big Brother works. So let's just pretend for a moment that the start of this twist is exactly like winning an HOH. Well, next, these two are blabbering excuses where they just lose me completely. And I don't know if they're trying to insult the intelligence of the audience or just insult the audience in general, which the casuals can be very dumb. But the people reading this article aren't going to be the casuals like someone Christine just mentioned. Either that or Meehan doesn't even understand the game that he has helped produced for years, which I think is also very possible if you look at some of the twists the show's been doing in recent seasons. He said, well, the initial challenge is kind of like an HOH. You can save yourself. But then you start to chain, and if you get sent to the hamster wheel, it's kind of like a veto. Oh, that's where they lose me. And then he says, where you have the opportunity to save yourself. Now, the big difference is instead of saving yourself with the vote after, you have to save yourself with the vote before. I mean, if someone in the chat knows what they're trying to say here, I would love to know because to me, it's really just a bunch of bullshit. So he's saying that the will is like a veto, but it's not, because in this case, if you don't do the will like we saw, you're out of the game. So it's not like a veto at all. It's quite frankly the opposite of a veto, where a veto can save yourself. Then he tried to say you can also save yourself in a vote during this twist, which there was no vote to evict. So just more bullshit. I think he was trying to say this is the only thing I get from these excuses, that you can vote yourself into doing the will or not doing the will. But I still don't see how you're making that comparison to a regular week of Big Brother at all. So just another fail in trying to pretend they're really, really good at their job when in fact they really, really didn't put as much thought into this as they're trying to make it seem, in my opinion. And just what they did was try and add something from reindeer games to this. Pam Robinson says, I had never heard of reindeer games, but I didn't like it when I saw this. Yeah, I didn't really watch all of reindeer games. Don't know how they thought this was a good idea to add something from that short show to the main show. Pamela says there was no vote. Exactly, which is the whole point as to why there was outrage. Christine says, LOL, I don't speak moron, so I'm so lost. Exactly, me too. Crazy Blade says it was like the red line. I don't know what that is in reference to. Back to the article, though, there's a few more things I got to talk about. So, the sorry excuses from Meehan was not the biggest joke in the article to me. Grodner later says that episode was certainly a great hour of TV, and then said, maybe we'll submit it for the Emmy. Now, maybe she was joking. Probably not, though. And this is an example of why the show has never been nominated for an Emmy and never will win one. What Grodner thinks is great television and what is actually great television are two completely different things. And I don't even like the Emmys either. But with the end of this article saying she's going to submit this episode for an Emmy, she follows up by saying we might see the twist again. And these quotes from her are just someone that I think has been way too safe at her job for someone who has been way too bad at her job for so long. And if CBS actually looks at the ratings and how they fell off hard until the finale, they won't want this twist back. But then again, this is the same network that keeps Grodner in the first place. So who really knows? They touted the finale ratings, which were huge and deserved thanks to the final three. But the editing this season is another shining example of why Grodner fails at her job. And time again, why I think ratings will probably be down next season because of this season. Because in the past, there is ratings evidence that on seasons where the audience loses faith in the show, it's the next season that usually suffers. And I think a shining example of that is Big Brother 19. Big Brother 19 had pretty good ratings. But by the end of the season, the audience was pretty upset with the show. And then Big Brother 20, which was a better game, less people watched it. And I blame that on Big Brother 19. Let's see what y'all are saying. Pamela says, weren't they planning more eliminations for BB27 but canceled them because of the Rachel backlash? That's what people on the feeds were saying. Talks between Will and Ashley at times, I believe even Ava and Vince at times, they were all being scared that there was going to be some other kind of twist where they could just be eliminated like that, and that the mastermind was going to have more twists. In this article, Grodner is saying that oh, we planned these twists out far out in advance, so we couldn't change that twist, and we didn't change twists. So who knows what to believe at that point. Pam says, didn't the ratings fall off after Rachel was evicted? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The ratings after that episode got pretty bad until the finale, which was good ratings. Tatsuya says, I'm not watching next year. The casting was terrible on BB27. I can't blame you for not watching. The cast was pretty bad. I would like to think they'll cast a different kind of cast, but they always like to typecast. So I doubt that. Pamela says the end of the season was so bad with the mastermind. They obviously scrambled. Yeah, as I said last time, I think, talking to someone in the chat, I believe they did the whole people that were screwed with twists in the past to try and save face that we meant to screw someone like Rachel over. Robin says, I just want to know what Grodner has on the CBS leadership for her to have this job for life. I think it's laziness, honestly, from CBS. They do this with some of their daytime soap operas too, which I sometimes talk about on this channel, where they just let the producers run wild because they feel like they're the only ones that can do the job because they've done that job for just so long. But I don't know what happened to networks wanting new blood to try and put new life into the show, which is what Big Brother does desperately need. So I think it's laziness on CBS thinking she's been a part of the producing team since the beginning. She became executive producer like BB8 or BB9, I don't remember. So yeah, I just think that they think she's the only one that could do the job for some reason, which I don't think is true. Devin says, OMG, I made another live. What's up, Devin? Congratulations on your 2-year wedding anniversary. Hopefully you're having a good celebration tonight. Hopefully it's not Big Brother related. Let's move on, though. I want to talk about Vince a little bit while I still have some time here. Not that there's a lot to say necessarily, but it's crazy that the guy who is still in hiding after Big Brother 27 is only seen when photographed by paparazzi like he is suddenly this big ol' celebrity. And it's kind of becoming a game. It's kind of like, where in the world is Vince San Diego? So the last live I made last Friday talking about Big Brother, I mentioned how Ashley's theory was that Vince was calling the paparazzi on himself. And I wasn't so sure if he would do that, but a lot of you in the comments were saying that that is actually something that Vince would probably do. And now I'm starting to believe it. Because how is he disappearing from everything except just paparazzi photos? Even Rachel agreed on the podcast she was on yesterday, talking about being popular from Big Brother and not ever having to deal with paparazzi. Now, Vince is out in LA, but that actually gives more to the theory to me, because nobody from past Big Brother seasons has gotten these paparazzi shots like Vince. And Vince's job before being out of work was in the entertainment industry out there in LA. So I think he might know someone that is a paparazzi photographer. And it's all becoming a scheme, another Vince scheme. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Vince hiding out on social media is another way for him to attempt to emotionally manipulate people, to make them feel sorry for him about his game, about the backlash to his game. I think he's doing that to his own fan base. And Vince stans are eating it up, because all season long, I saw a bunch of people that were Vince stans always feeling sorry for Vince. And I feel like that was the main reason why a lot of them were Vince stans in the first place. They felt sorry for him. So his emotional manipulation worked on the fans during the game and even after the game. So now after the game, hiding out, probably acting hurt about some of this talk about him and Morgan and him and Kelsey. His stans have been getting mad at Ashley because Ashley's being asked questions about her game and Vince's game. And she's answering honestly, like Ashley always will, because Ashley is very honest, very blunt. And also, Ashley has every right to shit on Vince's game after he spent the entire game trying to shit on hers. So I don't think Vince is laying low because he feels bad. I don't think Vince is laying low because he's afraid of the backlash. I think, this is the same Vince that cried the entire last week of the season over and over about how he wasn't going to get to final two to try and make Morgan feel sorry for him and want to bring him to final two. And then when Ashley won final two, he knew Ashley was going to bring him, and he was cheesing the entire rest of the finale. Despite knowing he was probably going to lose, he was cheesing the whole time. So yeah, I don't think you should feel sorry for Vince out there. He is fine. I think he will be online at some point for his adoring fans to feel sorry for him, because I'm convinced this is in fact a scheme he has set up. Let's see. Any quotes? Kaiwan says, I don't know what you're saying, Kaiwan. Something about the game. I don't know if it's about Vince or Grodner. But to me, Vince he's playing a game again. There's no doubt in my mind. The same Vince cheesing at the finale is not going to be the Vince that disappears on social media, suddenly popping up in paparazzi photos. I don't buy it. I want to move on and talk about one more subject from the person involved in platonic hug gates on BB27 to the platonic hug gate of Big Brother 26. Last week, there was all this uproar about Tucker and T-Core all of a sudden. And we all know Tucker and Rubina became a showmance on Big Brother 26. And we're even taping together on The Amazing Race that's airing now. They were still together when that was taped. They have it broke up 5 or 6 months ago, though. Well, during that season, before getting with Rubina, Tucker was very much into T-Core, in my opinion. But at the time, T-Core had a boyfriend. But there was that very memorable moment from season 26 where T-Core and Tucker were talking out their differences, and they shared their very own platonic hug that seemed to go on forever. Very awkward at times even, but it was like a 10-minute or more hug from what I recall. Well, now it seems that Tucker and Rubina have broken up. There's all these rumors that T-Core and her boyfriend have broken up, or at least not following each other on Instagram, which makes one think that they're not together. And now Tucker and T-Core are living together. And is this a platonic living situation? I would like to think so. Rubina added to the flames last week, which is why this became a part of Twitter uproar last Friday, Saturday, over the weekend. She was doing these vague posts on social media. Nobody really knew what she was talking about. So people were in an uproar. How could T-Core do that to Rubina? Which, frankly, during the season, in my opinion, T-Core paid Tucker dust other than that 12-minute hug. She never showed interest in him. It was always the other way around, in my opinion. Tucker went on social media over the weekend to quell the uproar from his fans, saying that T-Core is his friend who is looking for a job and an apartment in New York, so he's letting her stay there for a while. And so I'm going to take his word on it, and I'm going to assume that as long as they're not having these 15-minute platonic hugs all the time, they're just friends still. But I would like to watch the situation to see if there is potential drama going forward. Let's see what everyone's saying before I gotta leave for the day. YouTube users saying, I'm behind, but the social game, the whole strategy component of this is ridiculous. There is literally no way to predict competition performance. People flop. The fact that Morgan tried to protect. Are you talking about the twist or comps in general or social game in general? Pamela says Tucker had said T-Core was attractive or his type. Yeah, Tucker was into T-Core during the season. There was definitely points in times, sometimes you could tell the way a person looks at another person, which is why Morgan and Vince they were just so close the whole time. Starless says, my deepest condolences regarding your female friend Kimberly. You talking to somebody else? I don't think I have a female friend, Kimberly, that I know of. But condolences to Kimberly out there if there is someone that needs condolences. So yeah, the Tucker T-Core situation. T-Core's always wanted to be friends, only friends. Tucker maybe wanted more. As it stands right now, I'm going to take Tucker's word that there is nothing more than that. It's very platonic, similar to Morgan and Vince. It's just very platonic. Yeah, they're living together. Yeah, they shared a 20-minute hug during Big Brother uh, 26, but strictly platonic, I'm sure. And that's about it. I mean, the Big Brother 27 cast, I don't want to talk about the pre-jurors very much. So, and then the jurors they're being very civil out there, which I think is probably good. Ava finally came out of hiding a little bit. She posted on social media a little bit. Keanu has been doing, I saw he did a live with Adrian at some point. I didn't watch it, so I don't know what they talked about. I didn't see this for myself, but I read on Twitter, but who knows if you could believe Twitter, that Keanu said something about how he and Rachel could potentially be doing something together. I don't know what that something would be. And Ashley, she's been making the rounds to getting rightful praise for her game on different podcasts, which I think she deserves, especially since she didn't have an edit. So, yeah, that's about it for now. I don't know if they will be giving me anything more to talk about. Morgan is supposed to do a Twitch stream, but I don't know when. That's our only potential for juiciness because we really haven't heard Morgan talk about her game. And then yeah, that's it. I mean, Zach's still posting TikToks of him and Lauren because that's about the only way he can get a lot of attention on TikTok. Don't know if they're really together. Don't know if it's just still something that Zach wants or if it's going to become a real thing. So I will be back on Thursday, probably just to talk about Survivor and the Amazing Race, though I don't know. Unless Morgan has a really juicy stream with stuff to talk about, unless Vince comes out of hiding, playing his scheme to get people to feel sorry for him when he does finally return to social media. When one of those things happen, I will have hopefully more to talk about regarding Big Brother. And keep an eye out for me out there, anything regarding Tucker and T-Core, because I am interested in that if it does get, more dramatic. Because all these people saying they're just so platonic, I don't know if I buy it.